All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of A Few Points from Perfect. I am really excited about this episode.
So we've been talking about this one for a while now.
Yeah, I am. This is a little bit selfish on my behalf, but this is probably going to be one of my favorite episodes. It's going to be right up there with anybody that's not actually in my family. So you should feel honored, Bernie. You guys have heard us talk about this gentleman in a lot of my videos. We have talked about him in a lot of our podcast. He has been my employer. He's been a friend. He's been a customer.
So. Customer too, I know.
He's been a mentor. He's been a lot of things to me over the years for almost 30 years, Bernie. Can you believe we've known each other?
Yeah, that's a long way, man.
That was a long time. So anyways, I'm super excited. We don't get to talk near as much as what we did. We do have some videos on the main channel working at Bernie's house, and Bernie's in a few of those, but my old boss, good friend, Bernie.
Mike?
I'm super excited about this.
Good.
I really am, because there's so many stories going back so long, and I've always wondered your side of some of this stuff that's happened. Because now that I've been in business as long as what I'm having, every once in a while I'll catch myself thinking, I bet Bernie wanted to kill me.
Well, I still visit with Lou, and I really ought to come clean about that time I backed into. I really ought to come clean about. And every time I see Louis, he'll bring up one more thing. It's like, what? I go,
so there was right out here, right in this door you just walked into, there used to be a black bucket up until about 4 hours ago. And in that bucket right there, there was a DeWalt drill that had red paint on it. And I moved it right before you got here. So the joke is there, Bernie was, all of Bernie's tools were red, which was a great idea. We bought brand new tools, we painted them red. And I didn't purposely steal or take anything from Bernie, but there was obviously some stuff
how things ended up.
there was occasionally some stuff that showed up, and I don't know why. That thing has sat there for all those years, but it has.
I'm flattered if you thought of me.
Every time you walk by, they thought of you, Bernie.
It actually got moved.
And your stomach churned just a little bit.
It actually got moved about a year ago, but I used to walk by that thing and look down and see that red paint and just chuckle a little bit. So, so first off, let's just kind of back up a little bit. I want to give, like I said, I've known you for 30 years, but I obviously didn't know you You lived a lot of life before I come into existence. So, what's a little bit of your history? So, you guys originally from this area? Did you guys come in? I know your family's been involved in a lot of different things.
My dad was a college educated teacher, principal. Ended up being a school inspector for the state of Indiana.
Really? What the heck is a school inspector?
Well. In the 80s and 90s, they drive around and check teacher certifications and everything. They go to the schools and check and see what was happening. It's because schools had their accreditations and
right.
We didn't have computers back in the day.
Yeah, so basically,
Dad was able to. Dad read this book, How to Turn $1,000 into $1 million.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, he lost the part about the million.
Dad didn't quite make it there far.
God bless Dad. I always say it was like oil and water, him and money.
Yep.
I think you can say that about a lot of people, though.
He wanted to have a restaurant. We had a restaurant up in Lowell, Indiana. First place I ever remember living was Crown Point.
So just for a quick little reference for everybody, that's 4 hours north of us?
4.5. 300 miles.
Yeah, Indiana's
it's the northwesternmost county.
So is there more family still up there, or is everybody kind of?
We were in Lake County. Family was in Newton County. Dad grew up in Newton County. So he had 4 sisters. They're still up around there. My dad had a brother and a sister. Sister moved to Georgia. I spent Georgia as part of my history.
Gotcha.
Brother Richard stayed in Stark County. Stark County, Indiana. You want to dig a pond up there? You got to use a drag line because the water table is about 2 foot down.
don't have to worry about it holding water, though.
No, that's where Mom grew up. We were just almost in quicksand.
So your mom was also from that area?
Yeah,
So everybody-
northern Indiana.
So
Just
unfortunately, I never did get to meet your dad or have any type of relationship with him. I've heard stories. I think we were talking earlier, he passed away in 95.
my birthday in 1995. He was 57 years old, and I was 33.
But a very well-known guy in the community.
That was the character
yeah.
of the community, yes.
But your mom, on the other hand, I do know quite well. And I don't think there's anybody that don't love your mother.
Yep.
She thinks, does my head just look like an ear? Because people come up and they just want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, oh no, she was a school teacher for years and years and years, and very involved in a lot of community activities and very involved with the school corporation. And just one of the sweetest ladies you'll ever meet. I love your mom to absolute death. Whenever we worked for Bernie and had a job to do at his mom's house, everybody was fighting over that one because she took good care of us.
Well, you
out
guys
there.
did.
Probably got cookies and everything
Oh,
else.
yeah.
We did a lot of projects out there.
We did. I enjoyed every single one of them.
Well, how did you dodge the teaching career then? If your dad's a teacher, your mom was a teacher, your sister was in the teacher. I mean, like,
I should have went to college, but I hated school.
yeah, I agree with that.
Before we moved to Perry County because Dad found an ad in the United Farm Catalog.
Really?
Found 73 acres in Perry County for $500 an acre, which is pretty cheap.
Now, yeah.
Well,
It was a cheap then, too.
then it was cheap for northern Indiana standards.
yep.
And this piece of property had a, spring-fed pond. It had a
This is the same piece of property your mom still lives on, right?
unexplored cave. Oil Creek runs
right
runs
there.
right through it.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Unique piece of property.
Yes, pretty cool sounding piece of property. And we were up there in the flatland. I mean, you could see a yard light 4 miles away where Dad grew up.
Well, that's one thing a lot of people don't understand about Indiana is about, 30, 40 miles south of Indianapolis. It's like a line. It just changes from flat.
Yeah, that
starts
glaciated
changing.
to.
Yeah.
So the rocks. I came down here and I thought these rocks are awesome. You can stack one on top of another. You can build stuff just with rocks because up there
They're all round and rolled
perfectly
around.
round.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, they've wind blown or something, too.
So where did you actually graduate high school from?
I spent 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th at Salesian Prep up north.
Really?
Catholic college prep school, and got done there. I worked at a hardware store, that whole time
In the
too.
evenings, too. Or,
This is all fascinating to me. I didn't know what it is.
yeah.
Midtown True Value Hardware. It was great. I just found a friend from there, thanks to the internet. But we moved down here. Started, my junior year at Perry Central. And little ways in, realized I had enough credits to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And kids were kind of doing that. They were a lot of midterm graduations, but I had enough at the end of my junior year. So Dad they needed something. They went to the school board and said Bernie wants to get an early jump on college. And then I forgot to go to college. I kind of had an early birthday anyway, so I graduated high school when I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Holy cow.
Turned 17 that summer.
Yeah.
And
It's different that way.
So the college was the excuse just to get out. And then
Yes.
Gotcha. So I guess my question is, whenever you were getting out of school early at 16 or 17 or whatever it was, like obviously you said you weren't super interested in college. Did you have any idea what you wanted to do from there?
I wanted to be a carpenter from the time I was 6 years old.
So you had a
I wanted to be
mind.
I wanted to be a carpenter. Farming kind of caught my, farming caught my interest, but farming,
Be glad you didn't take that path.
there was a moment that changed everything for me in farming. We moved a International 560 down here with us. Dad bought, from his dad, and an auction up north. That we moved 30 years back in time. The farming implements here compared to Newton County.
Oh, well, everybody was so much more advanced up
Yes,
there. Well, of course,
yeah.
they were farming a lot better ground and
A lot better, bigger.
a lot
Yeah.
easier. Yeah.
Well, we went up there and got a mounted corn picker, dug it out of the back of his uncle's barn. It had sat there for 30 years.
Oh.
and mounted.
And still used good technology
Yeah.
down here.
But there was an afternoon I spent most of a day driving around trying to find a float for that 560 to get it running. I thought, this makes no sense. So I should be working. I should be
Yeah.
building something, doing something.
Not chasing parts, chasing a ghost.
Yes. And just breakdowns in the middle of the night. Art Webb, shout out to Art Webb
Oh,
and
yeah.
all
He
his
was
family.
a big one in the area. Well,
I remember he welded up a tie rod. And, we put it back on. 4 hours later, it broke again. We headed right back over there. He said, let's not drop it in that bucket of water this time to cool it off.
yeah.
That's when I knew I didn't want to be a farmer. And
No, I was just going to say, knowing you and knowing your personality and knowing you as well as I do, I don't know if your creative side could have come out as well in farming as what it does as a carpenter.
you're right.
Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. Kind of here in retirement, I keep thinking about farming, but everything except for planting something. I want to build raised beds, and I want to build this, and I want to build that. But when it actually comes right down to sticking the seed in the ground, I don't know.
It takes a lot of money to put a lot of seed in the ground, not know what's going to come out of it.
So we got carpentry in mind. I kind of know some of your steps of how you got to where you're at because you become a very successful business owner eventually. So what was your path from okay, I've scratched farming off the list. I'm going to pursue this carpentry. So
it wasn't quite as it wasn't quite as It was. I'm not going to be a farmer. I'm not going to go to the chair factory.
Yeah.
And at that time, my aunt and uncle in Georgia. Georgia was booming in 1981. President Carter was just kind of finished. Things were happening down there, so
that was
I called.
The beginning of the Reagan.
Yes,
administration,
Reagan
right?
was. Yeah, it was just as Reagan started.
It's also the year I was born. I was a kid.
Okay, well, I moved in with my aunt and uncle. They have 11 children, and most of them older than me.
This would have been your
And they
dad's-
just opened their house up. I mean, it was like that with our family. And I thought I'd get a job at the plant where my uncle worked. He was shift superintendent. One of my cousins was there. He says, no, it doesn't work that way.
Isn't that wild to think how it was back then and how hard it was to get one of those jobs versus they're
they're begging
you to
Yeah.
come to the door.
That's what Dad always said.
And
in
they're
the
probably-
80s, you couldn't buy a job
And they're
anywhere.
a lot better jobs now than what they were back
know,
then,
I know.
and they can't give them away.
Well, so I was laying around my aunt and uncle's house, just jumping on the trampoline, just 18 years old, kind of foot loose.
Having a good old time. Huh?
Yeah.
After 3 weeks, I think my aunt was getting kind of tired of it. She was asking everybody she knew. her car overheated, overheated in January, February. Pulled into a motel, and like I said, she was asking everybody she saw. This guy at the motel said, "Well, there's a guy here who's needing help." So I went and I interviewed in the hotel room, V.W. Ballard, a 6'4". I thought he was an old man. He was probably every bit of 45 or 50. Fellow from Mississippi. V.W. He'd talk soft as he walked away from you, and you were supposed to hear everything he said.
Yeah.
But he asked me if I'd ever been afraid of heights. I said not in any roof or any barn I've ever been on, but said I don't really know. Well, he was building a cooling tower at the pulp mill in Jessup, Georgia. So I went to work for him. One old leather front hanging carpenter tool bag, climbing all day long, tools falling out of it. First thing I did was bought some side bags. But I fell in love cooling towers. So I'd
So,
love to climb.
That's the first job I remember you tell me about having, because we'd be driving along and Bernie would point out a cooling tower out there. And just to describe these things, a lot of factories and larger structures had these, and sometimes they were on the roof, sometimes they stood alone, but they would pump water into them. They're made out of wood, right?
They were then.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one of the new ones. I guess now they're, fiberglass or whatever. But yeah, it's a lot of
whether they had
redwood.
refrigeration or heating and air or different things, the water was cooled for different purposes.
Yes. Yeah.
It was like a radiator for the entire building.
They're like power plants. They
Yes.
Gotta
cool
recool
that back down. Pulp mills, the processes.
But back then, the common way to build them was out of wood.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. 2x4s bolted to 4x4s.
yeah.
And safety wasn't quite as we talked about safety in the early 80s, but
Was that before or after somebody fell?
I don't know. It was before I was working for Marley when the chest straps and all
Come
that
on.
came into play. But most of my time with Marley, we had hip belts.
That's just a belt, wasn't it? A safety belt or whatever.
Yeah, which really were designed for positioning belts, right? But we were supposed to use for safety belts. And it was before the breakaway lanyards. So you were supposed to tie yourself off, fall 6 foot, and be broke in half.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the
Sometimes
time,
you're glad times have changed.
yeah, that's right. Well, that's right. We'd be 30 feet off the ground, standing on a 2x4s, bolted 4x4s, and the next step was to stand that next 16-foot 4x4 up on top of another 4x4 about waist height,
Keep on
and
going.
then bolt it together. And it'd be crews of 2 men, and you'd have to jump those bents, or take a step every 4 foot, if you
Yep.
will. Walk that 4x4 straight up, position it, hit it with your knees, line it up, balancing it.
Up in the air.
Yeah. As many 7.5 and 8.5 inch stainless steel bolts as you could carry.
You're back.
Climbing.
Now, this was this a union position? Or was this?
Both. I
Both.
transitioned into union.
Okay.
I don't think I'll get in trouble saying I bought my union card, mail order from a local in Texas.
Ain't that something?
But I think
But this
I
was
think at
also
that
the
point
kind
I had journeyman
Was that
credentials.
common back then to mail order cars, or?
Oh, it was illegal as can be.
Was it? Yeah.
Statute of limitations, I'm sure, have run out. I think I'm good now. But
I had a good buddy in the union sprinkler fitter, and he was working at GPC, which was a grain processing plant in Washington. He wanted me to get in the sprinkler trade with him, but we couldn't get in. But he found a loophole that if you work one day on a union job, they got to take you. I didn't know this. He knew that. You're on. Come on, get in the truck. Let's go. I went to Washington and worked union. It wasn't even a union, but after they paid me my check, they were forced.
he was
To let
getting-
me in.
He was getting you to just jump through the loophole. You didn't
Yeah,
know.
I didn't even know. We went through Evansville and the BA back in. Was we got our butts reamed out pretty good over that son of a- welcome to the union. Like, don't do that to me.
I think I did one job. One job I did using another guy's card. I don't know.
didn't know
If
Bernie
anybody
was quite
asks,
the
if
rebel.
anybody asks, my name's Bobby. But
Yeah.
but my nickname's Bernie.
Goodness gracious. So how many years you were on the cooling tower crew for a couple
3 or
years?
4 years down in the southeast, and then I quit. Was going to settle down, start a family, and that lasted about 3 months. And I got a call from the cooling tower from Marley again. They had a job in Evansville.
Really? Which Evansville would be close to home here.
Yeah. I was able to. It was an hour's drive.
Yeah.
It was
So
union,
whenever
good
you
human. Good.
whenever you quit down there, did you move back up here then?
Yeah, I was kind of in the middle of that. I moved back up here.
Okay.
Because I was in and out of my aunt and uncle's house, but the jobs were they were all over.
So you
Pensacola, the Gainesville.
So Perry County would kind of become the home base, even
Yes,
though you
Cape-
were going in and out. So, so where did the Did you transition into a full union carpenters? Where did all the drywall hanging and all that come from?
When I quit I got done traveling. I was gonna, we were ready to start having kids, and just again that even though it started out in Evansville on a couple of jobs over the course of the next 3 years, it was Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in the wintertime.
Ooh, that don't sound like fun.
Fishkill, New York, near Poughkeepsie at a IBM plant. Chattanooga. Not very many jobs you could drive to.
Right. So you
How
were
long,
you're
how
you're
long
back
did you
out
stay
the
out
road.
at the time? I mean, did you come back home every week or every other week, or I mean, you stayed till the job was done, or
We were home about every weekend.
were you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you married at this time?
Got married in '84. So yeah, I got married in the middle of all that.
Middle of us. Okay.
Got married just as I started back to. That's I told my boss down there. Broke his heart in the southeast that I was going to quit. Went to work for Lincoln Hills Development Corporation,
Really?
managing.
Was Larry the?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
So Larry, the guy that used to be I guess he was the CEO, wasn't he?
yeah,
Is that his title?
yeah.
The guy who used to be the CEO, which would I guess technically been your boss, would have been Captain Kleeman's dad.
Yes,
And
yes,
Larry did a good job with Lincoln Hills for
yes,
a lot of years.
yeah.
A lot of years.
But I did that for 2 or 3 months, and then I figured out what $7,000 a year amounted to per hour. It's like, oh wow, this was these guys I'm overseeing are making more than me. That's when I got the call to go to work in Evansville, and I remember asking old Don. I said, "Well, who's going to run this job? You want me to come out on?" He says, "Well, you're going to run it." Okay, great. But yeah, so it was about '84, and then my last cooling tower was in '87. Again, to settle down, went to work up in Jasper for a home builder, or just I was looking for any kind of work.
So at any point in any of this, did running your own business ever even cross your mind?
I was building barns for neighbors and
Side job stuff.
yeah, side job stuff. But yeah, it was. I always kind of knew it was there. It wasn't yet.
Never pulled the trigger on it.
I was always buying a tool if I could. I had a nice workshop in Leopold, and it was always about one more tool in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What? And I should probably know this. What year was Bauer Construction officially kicked off?
91. When I got done with cooling towers, I worked for that home builder for 3 or 4, 6 months, and then realized I can make more money building fence, in Perry County and without driving.
No idea you built fence.
I didn't build much fence. I helped Sonny build his house and a few odds and ends, but it wasn't very long until Danny Peter,
Yeah.
you guys know Danny,
Yeah.
he said, "I just got a call from TNT Drywall and Acoustics. They're needing a carpenter." Said, "I'm in tight with Danco, but it'd be a good job for you." And I have my union card, and I'd hung some drywall, but nothing like
What they
that.
wanted,
Not for a union company. But they were patient with me. I worked hard. you know.
Well, you're.
And
we'll get to this later, but one of the things we always appreciate about is you and I've learned this a lot from you is just because that's the way everybody else did it, don't mean that's the way it needs to be done.
I did have problems with that, trying to invent this or that, better way to hang drywall.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't do that. But
So were you actually working for Danco, or were you working for the TNT? You were a subcontractor too?
TNT and Danco were competitors.
Okay.
Yeah, Danco was drywall at first before they weren't.
you guys
Before
just-
they went carpenter.
Yeah, and you guys just hung, right? You didn't do.
Well, we had finishers on the
But
in
you
the
were on
company.
the hanging crew, I guess.
Right.
Gotcha.
Metal studs. I think the first week or two I was there, I was dropping ceiling tile and then moved right into a bunch of wood trim. So it was good carpenter work.
Really cool.
And I guess that's what carried you up to 91 whenever you.
Exactly. I had a chance to build a home in Perry County for Denny Gravy. My relationship with Sonny Falkenberg, Dave
full
Roach.
circle. Sonny kind of circled back around and ended up working
Yes,
for you at the end, which was
yes.
pretty cool. Sonny's a good dude.
Well, we're going to work together tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now that I'm retired and just helping Jess part-time, my nephew took over the business. I told him, I'd like to work about a week a month, and I'd like to work with Sonny.
Yeah.
Because Sonny and I can, we can talk or not, but
Yeah.
we both know what the other one's going to do, what he's doing. We don't have to give him suggestions on how to do it. And
40 years of history there.
yes,
Yeah, 40 years of history there, which makes going to work more like hanging out with your friends than it does.
yes, it does.
Actual work. So, what was the what changed, or what made you finally pull the trigger and decide to
having a whole house to
have
build.
the whole house to build?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the catalyst.
Right.
So
But that time hanging drywall, I think that was the best preparation that a person can have, kind of for whether home building or kind of this industry, just the skills, the kind of that atmosphere. Because you think union work is being, you don't think of them as being go-getters,
Drywall hanging's fast-paced.
Drywall
It's a
hanging was
job.
fast-paced.
I've been on jobs with them, yeah.
if you hung drywall with Bernie, you just got the hell out of the way.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced job.
It was fast-paced, and everybody was there pulling for the crew. It wasn't any. You were never trying to dodge work.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect that from a union crew,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was great.
Well, I think that's where the union, and I'm not a pro or con union guy either way, but I think all those guys sometimes get lumped into the same stereotype,
That's right.
which is not fair because there's so many different trades, there's so many different halls, there's so many different everything, and then even with that, what happens here may not happen out of the
Drywalling isn't building scaffold. I'm sure it's very hard work, but there's also a lot of waiting. And that waiting for the next thing to be ready kind of turns into, hard
laziness.
work. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say I got, in your story, I was a union sprinkler fitter. And I spent 5 years in Chicago doing construction. So remodeled Midway Airport, remodeled Soldier Field, and a 62-story high-rise from ground up. And drywallers are fast-paced, but I've seen some unions that just barely did enough to say they did a day's job, And so, yeah, there's different speeds and skills and desire to work in all unions.
I got my eyes open to that quite a bit working with Dale in all these stadiums in different cities.
Yeah.
And like St. Louis was the absolute worst. And then he says we're going to Wrigley Field in Chicago, and I'm like, oh God! But they were awesome up there.
Really? Yeah.
You go to we went out to do the Mets Stadium in that's New Jersey.
Yeah.
Horrific. You go out and do the Dodgers Stadium in California, you think it's going to be even worse. Easy peasy. You just never know, and a lot of it had to do with the GC too,
Yes.
and how much pull they had with the hall. And then the first thing you need to do whenever you get there is figure out who's the big boss that makes the decisions, it's a I don't want to say it's a political game, but it's a hierarchy game in a lot of ways. And I kind of knew early on it wasn't for me. I'd end up in a dumpster in pieces at some point, I'm afraid.
that New Jersey crew, yeah.
So how many electrical boxes did you just drywall over and just play games with them?
That wasn't how we did it.
No.
I can think of a few that I did on accident.
Yeah. Calling out measurements. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So once you got this first house, and was there no looking back, or was this going to build a house and maybe go back to the hall, or was it pretty much full steam ahead from there?
I had a plan. I got done with this house, and then I borrowed money to put an addition on my own home, kind of get me through the winter. If this was my job, I was going to pay myself $500 a week.
Gotcha.
And during that time, kind of looked for work, and suddenly, it just kind of came. Built a couple of homes for for staff out at Branchville. Sonny, I guess that was kind of it. Those circles you run in.
Yeah.
Sonny was one of those circles. He helped me get that house.
He was out of Branchville,
with his sister and brother-in-law, and then he was out of Branchville, and I knew his schedule better than he did because he helped me on all his days off. But you got off next Thursday, next Wednesday, and Thursday.
You already had it
Sonny,
scheduled.
We're gonna, and so yeah, it was a lot of those connections, and then made some connections down at what was then Tell City National Bank. And it's not a big leap from 91 to 96. It felt like a lifetime. Mm-hmm. But by 96, we were building the bank president's house. We put an addition on the one of the bank branches. Those were big
You're
jobs.
competing with old Jerry Swartz.
I never thought of it that way. I'd never.
Oh, I heard all about it. I remember those days.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know it. I didn't know any of those guys even
It
knew I
was
was out
one
there.
of the most interesting days I can remember. So these people don't. This is for me and Bertie's story because they don't know who Jerry Swartz is. And Jerry Swartz was a very polarizing contractor. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes.
I think, yeah.
Yes.
And he was kind of the family contractor. I don't know why, but Grandma and Grandpa always hired him to do.
Okay.
Grandma and Grandpa was always doing something in the house, and Jerry Swartz was always the one who was doing it. I lived right next door to Grandma and Grandpa, so whenever I was gunner's age, 10, 11, 12, up until I got my license, if Jerry was over there working, my ass was right at his feet. And Jerry is not that type of person. And finally, Jerry figured out that he can't run me off, so he started giving me stuff to do. And I'd go do the task and come back and ask for the next one. And then he finally figured out I was kind of useful. And next thing I know, I was working and not getting paid. But I think Jerry, I've never asked Jerry this question, and I don't know for sure.
Is he alive or dead?
Jerry's still alive.
Sorry.
No. I need to.
I'm getting to that age where I kind of check,
I still talk to. Actually, I might even do a job for Jerry this year. But I got my license, and I think Jerry thought maybe I was going to come to work for him, and I ended up coming to work for you instead. And I could tell he was disappointed, but he wasn't like mad. But you know how. And I don't know.
Well, how did I manage that?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I really don't know. I think it had to do with Mom. She wanted me to learn stuff the right way instead of Jerry was a great carpenter, very talented, did a bunch of concrete work, but the way you ran your business, the way Jerry ran his business were kind of two different things. And honestly, I don't really know. I will say this for Jerry. I never had an official offer from him that I remember. Mm-hmm. I think it was just
because we were doing things, you were helping during high school.
Yeah, and I think it was one of those things. And Jerry also had his son, Matthew, working for him at the time.
Okay.
So he did have some really good help at the time and a couple other guys. I don't know. I need to ask Jerry that question. I really don't know because I never did work for Jerry. I've worked for Jerry as a subcontractor.
Did I recruit anybody else out of that building trades class?
Yeah, so we'll fast forward to... I guess it was, what did we say, 98?
Yeah.
So I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And this house building is baffling to me because the whole time I worked for you, we never built any houses.
Right. I was kind of...
You were kind of...
I'd gone towards the remodeling, and you've built houses.
Yeah.
And my thinking was, I've kind of given this speech before, I figured out that I wanted to be a good businessman. I needed to, if I was going to survive doing this, I needed to.
And I think that's an important lesson for people to learn, and because we were just speaking earlier off camera of how many people that give it 3 or 4 years and
finishing. Yeah, that 5th year is kind of a make or break.
Right.
But what I saw in remodeling was, if you take a $10,000 job and you run it, you run it right. You do everything right. You pay it, you wipe your feet off. Mm-hmm. You kind of have a reputation for delivering on your price. That was something we did from day one. Not day one, probably within a year or two, we switched to all contract pricing. We didn't do anything time and material. I never have. Where's the incentive to go out and buy a new tool or get done faster or
Right.
so.
What,
Lost my train
well,
of
I'll just, well, one thing
We
I,
went into remodeling, and with remodeling, you do all those things right. You're polite. That can be worth an extra $1,000 on a $10,000
and
job.
just communicate.
Yes, and just planning it. So I felt like that could be worth an extra $1,000 on a $10,000 job. Now, let's talk about bidding against somebody on a house. And
Back in that time in our area, home building was pretty competitive. It's changed a lot.
You come in with a bid for $110,000, even if it was a fixed price. Let's say you came in with a bid for $110,000, and another guy comes in who's been bidding over and over and over, time and material, kind of a hell for leather guy, whatever. If he's $10,000 less, that's enough to get you the job,
Yeah.
to win or lose the job.
Yeah.
That $10,000 feels like a lot.
Yeah.
And that's where I saw I could add more value to my work more
Remodeling.
value to my work in remodeling than in new homes.
Right.
There we
So do you think, and I'm just kind of curious, especially, so the name of the business eventually morphed into Bauer Kitchen and Bath.
We're just doing business as.
Yeah, but-
so it's still Bauer Construction Incorporated.
So I guess just to kind of compartmentalize this a little bit, you went from, I'm making this really simple, but you built a house, you got all these variables and all these details to pay attention to, and all those affect that end one. So whenever you go to doing a smaller job, remodeling a kitchen or a bathroom, it's a lot easier to pay a lot closer attention to those details because there's less of them, correct?
Yes.
And then that, in return, changes that margin. You can manipulate that margin on the end a lot easier than you can with a bigger project.
You can add more value, can't
Right.
you?
Yeah. Now, if you would have explained that to me while I was working for you, I would have went right over my head.
So is bathrooms and kitchens a most common remodel? Or is that just what you focused on?
That's what it took a while, but it was probably 5 years ago. I sold the business a year ago, but 5 or 6 years ago, I had a full-time salesman, and I said, we're only doing kitchens and bathrooms. And that's it. Anybody calls for anything else, I've got a few friends who I'll do work for, but that's all we're doing.
So going back to why I made the decision to go to work for you versus some of the other contractors around here, and I was kind of thinking about that as we were talking. I think the biggest reason is all the other contractors in this area. I know we mentioned Jerry. I'm not picking on Jerry by any stretch of the imagination, but they were your typical contractor, run all day, bid at night, throw numbers on a post-it note. You want a job? Yeah, I'll show up tomorrow. May pay you cash, may give you a check. Just whatever needs to be done or whatever needs to happen that day, they just find a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I wanted to get a job with Bauer Construction, it wasn't just show up. It was you're going to get an interview, and we're gonna have a chat about what we expect out of you. You're going to be W-2'd. You're going to be doing. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be answering. We got processes. It was.
Yeah, I was heavy into that.
Yeah, it was much more structured and more of a. I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but not more of a. I don't want to say real job because all of them were real jobs, but it was.
Yeah.
It was a much more organized business than what construction in this
I
area
was working hard to get everybody in, in shirts,
Yes.
kind of in uniform.
Yeah.
We laughed for years.
But we had a lot of conversations too. I remember even in the interview process, I was just summer help about how we communicate with customers, how we leave job sites at the end of the day,
Yeah.
How we park in their driveways, how I mean, I know there's a bunch of things we're missing, but there was, compared to the other guy that showed up with his truck and tools in the back, and the quality of the job at the end may have been very similar.
I think they were.
I think the quality of work that we did and the quality of work the other guys did was very similar.
Very similar.
But the path that you took
versus
the path they took could not have been farther apart. Is that a good way to describe that?
That's a great way to describe it.
The quality of work was the same. The customer was getting quality both ways.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a lot of truth to what you said, is a lot of people appreciated whenever you gave them a price. That was what it is, because it was very common back then. That's whenever they hold upselling and fees and all this stuff.
I remember, I'll say their name here, Stephanie Hendershot, planning a bathroom remodel for Stephanie, and I had these folders printed up. I mean, they cost $1 or $2, and name on the front. And when I deliver a bid, I'd put them inside there, and I saw people organizing their project. And I remember going to her house and seeing my bid on one side and seeing the competitors on the other. And it's like, she can't even, close this folder without seeing my name. It's like, this is working.
Yeah. It's the small stuff for sure. But I think, I don't know, I remember Mom and a lot of people in the family, because I was like you. I did not want to go to college. I had zero desire to go to college, and then whenever I graduated in 2000, like, saying you didn't want to go to college might as well say you're going to visit the devil. It was
that wasn't going to happen, was it?
It was bad. Yeah. And I had no desire, and I do remember being encouraged to, if I was going to get into the trades or do something like that, if you're going to do it, you need to learn from the best. And I think that's where I was encouraged to apply to work for you. And then I remember I think I did 2 interviews. One was at school, and then I did one with you and your business partner at the time. And then I remember getting accepted the job, and I roofed my ass off for a whole summer. I don't know how many damn shingles I nailed on, but
goodness.
But you was in the building trades in high school.
I was.
And then that's where the
I'd go in and I'd work with the guys.
Yeah,
I'd hang drywall with you
so that's where the
an
connection
afternoon.
started at then.
Yeah,
maybe
and you had a pretty good relationship with our teacher, Nick Rice. And
Nick was a teacher then?
I think Nick would probably suggest, I don't know, I'm speaking to you at this point.
Exactly.
But I think Nick would suggest a couple guys that may be able to hang with Bernie. Mm-hmm. And I mean this in the in the most respectful way, whatever, but Bernie's a little bit of a different guy. Mm-hmm. In a good way.
Just
just
better or worse.
Well, no, but just from the way I described how everybody else operated, how you operated, you had standards, you had expectations, and you went about stuff a completely different path than everybody else did. And some people didn't veer as easy as other people. You know what I mean? So, but man, we had some good crews.
Did you work on the fairgrounds?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was. So you guys did that. You guys are finishing it up whenever I come back from my second summer. So I was up there with Jim Pate doing a bunch of the landscaping work.
Okay.
I put a bunch of the tile down in the basement.
Wow.
I remember spending many days down there caulking around that floor. Every time I go in the basement of the fairgrounds, I remember caulking around the floor. And then just some miscellaneous trees. Hung the bathroom dividers.
Okay. So you were Warner Drug Store.
No, I was not on that one. Well, that's where I was going to go to.
Okay.
So.
How about Judge McIntoffer's house?
No, I went up there and did warranty work with you.
Okay.
But I never.
I slid off that roof.
Yeah. Now I've been on 2 different roofs. I've seen you slide. You're talking about one of them about took me off while I'm with you. That was Nick Schitzius's sister's house up there in Berglund Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I can't remember the other roof you went off of, but it was getting ready to rain. It was my first summer. It was getting ready to rain, and we were we cut a dormer in the back of the house. Was that McIntoffer's house?
I think so.
Okay. And
That's a pretty good fall.
Bernie went to slide the tarp down the roof, and never stopped.
Never stopped them.
It was raining.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was slick.
And
Yeah, I had bruises on my chest where my knees hit.
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That kind of.
he hit the ground, and we're all scrambling trying to get over there. And about the time we get to the ladder, he's coming back up, and he's dazed pretty good. I think what was the guy? Was it Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, why don't you just stay on the ground? We got this. The first time I worked for you was basically 2 summers in high school.
Yeah.
And the first summer, you had a full-time roofing crew.
Yes.
And we had so much fun on that roofing crew. We roofed a lot. We put a lot of roofs on. I'm sure we screwed 1 or 2 of them up.
Do you remember the brackets we built?
Yeah.
We had welded up?
Yeah, I do.
I'm still proud of those. I wish
Yeah.
they were used everywhere, but it's not a thing.
The second summer I worked for you, we transitioned into a lot of commercial renovations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our big REC facility, or Southern Indiana Power now.
I remember one of the younger, kid about your age, decided how cool it would be to drive the 1-ton truck just through the yard at REC. He said, I'm just going to drive out through this green pasture. And their maintenance man just came unglued.
Was that
Rightfully
me?
so. No, it wasn't you.
that you?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It
Sounds like
wasn't.
something I would
It
do. It
wasn't
wasn't
you.
for sure.
No, his initials were NC, and I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, yes, that makes a whole lot more sense. I just remember from the REC job, Dave Rogie was in charge of that job.
Yeah.
And us summer guys went in there, and we were demoing block and doing all that stuff. We just did whatever Dave said to do. And towards the end of summer, we were putting drywall back and everything. And somebody told Dave, I think it was Dennis Boland was working at the time. He told Dave I knew how to finish drywall.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
Great.
Dave's like, good, go over and start finishing. I'm like, I finished a closet in the building trade's house.
Yeah.
So I'm under there just mudding away. And Dave comes in, he goes, I don't know what the hell you're going to do with that, but it's your problem now.
Somebody's got to sand all that back
I'm
down.
like,
Huh?
oh, boy. So, yeah, I got pretty good at finishing drywall after I had to sand for about 3 days.
Yeah.
Dave's retired this year.
Did he? He was over at Crib?
I called him. I needed to put that mahogany on the front porch of my house. And I called Dave up and said, I could really use some help for a day or two.
Dave
and he
was,
came out, and I paid him a bowl of chili each day, and that was it.
So we finished up that job, and then I'm pretty sure it was that same summer we did the big eye doctor, right?
Sure. Yes.
We did the big addition on the big eye doctor there in town, and I didn't.
There was a vacant lot, and you just see a vacant lot, and you think a vacant lot. We started digging footings and hitting, other old foundations.
Yeah.
You remember that? It's there's not going to be a vacant lot until
I got there. Ironically, the first thing we did when we got there was roofed it.
Well, of course.
Yeah. We got there and roofed it and dried it in and everything. And then I think the last thing I did down there before I had to go back to school was the drywall. We hung drywall.
Okay.
And then,
I remember Dave Roach and I spraying texture on all those ceilings.
Yeah. And I think, for some reason, I think I may have come back and worked a random day here and there whenever I was off school or something like that. But that was one thing I want to say about working for you. And I'm kind of curious how you set this up a little bit, is you had multiple different crews. Because the first time I worked for you, you had Dennis Bowen, and you had Dave Rogie, which was kind of a throw-together crew for some of the bigger work.
Yeah.
And then you kind of were doing a lot of work yourself as well.
I always wanted, I liked being out with my tools. I knew I needed to run the business efficiency, but having staff in the office.
But then,
keep things rolling
and then you had, I guess, the NC guy. He was running the roofing crew.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And he did. Nick was Nick, but he did it pretty good. I guess him and Louie. Everybody. I don't know if there was a true ringleader on the roofing crew, but those guys. I was the young buck on the roofing crew.
I'd call Nick up and give him directions.
But from a guy, just from my perspective, a guy that's filling in for summer help, whenever you can go to work for 4 or 5 different crews and learn something from
each one,
every one of them, that was very, very beneficial and influential on me, you know what I mean? Because the way Dennis did stuff and the way Dave did stuff could not be farther apart. And the way you did stuff was even different yet from those guys. And Nick was, I said his name, I didn't say his last name. But Nick was an ex-college athlete, basically, that
Yes.
thought he was macho man, and I was a little bitty old guy that he was going to push around, and I got my laughs in with him. Probably earned my respect with him, but it was just pretty cool to be put in all those different
We had a
situations.
we had a girl on the roofing crew, and her and Nick didn't gee and haw.
Uh-oh.
I can only imagine.
Oh, it was a.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So,
So you took off and went to college then,
forced.
forced,
Yeah, forced.
and then worked at the
but you-
dealership.
I mean, you learned a lot, right?
At college, I didn't learn a damn thing. That was the biggest way. I mean, I'm just going to be honest.
You made some friends. I remember you hauling equipment back and forth to
I
Indianapolis.
did make some friends.
Worked at a Lowe's or a Home
I did
Depot.
have a good time working at Lowe's, and that was a good employment.
Because I remember
experience.
you telling me how much slicker the painted floors were than the regular concrete. I was debating on painting a concrete floor one day. Oh, these are a lot easier to sweep.
Yeah, they are.
But then after college and the dealership, at some point you
Yeah,
decided.
so I will say this much about college. I went to college for, it was basically 18 months for diesel technology, to be a diesel mechanic. I got out of college, got offered a job down at Evansville as a night shift oil change mechanic. Kind of worked my way up into the office as assistant service manager, service writer within a week. And that whole experience taught me a couple different things. One, I knew I had no business being in the office, and I didn't want to be in the office. The other thing is, and I don't know if I've ever said this publicly, but whenever I was a service writer or assistant service manager, I had access to what 20-year mechanics were making down there. And I'm like, I ain't sticking around for this. Like, I have no, kind of what you were saying earlier, like, I gotta, this ain't gonna work. I gotta find a different plan. And I had no desire to move to Evansville. But working in the office, doing what I did down there was good for me because it confirmed 100% out of my mind I have no desire to do that.
You didn't want to live in Evansville. That was part of. I think I always wanted to be in business. That transition from a union carpenter working in Evansville, just kind of similar paths.
Right.
I said I loved working.
Right.
Period. I said I can work 10 or 11 hours a day. You know, take those 2 or 3 hours that I'm spending on the road
Travel time.
and work and get paid for working, and that'll get me that'll cover a lot in my cut and hourly wage.
Right. And that's where, you know, to run a business where we run a business at, I don't want to say we're limited, but it's a different market.
Well, we're living the dream.
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
mean,
no.
just drop anybody in here.
Yeah. It's,
Where we're at, I mean, and I don't know, it's intangible, but
Yeah.
I just hear guys talk about how they, you know, these big markets, how they fight and compete and deal with this and that. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty much friends with all my competition.
Yeah.
So we're getting off subject here. So anyways, I gave Evansville what I would consider a fair shot. I think I was there a little over a year and a half. There was some other politics involved, some other stuff going on down there that I kind of seen the writing on the wall. It wasn't going to end up well. And
but I knew you were there. I mean, I never lost track of you. And I think I reached out, didn't I?
yeah, Bernie, I was thinking about that. The reason why I was thinking about that is there was about 4 or 5 weeks or maybe a couple months in there where I was like, I almost picked the phone up a few times and called you. Because I was just really over it. I don't want to go into a bunch of details down there, but my boss become absent. I was doing 2 jobs, getting paid for one, getting blamed for a bunch of stuff that was just out of my control. What really kept me down there was I had 60-something guys in the shop that I kind of become over top of, and I had an awesome relationship with those guys. But Bernie called me up one day and asked me if I'd ever consider coming back, and
Because I thought it was going to be a big demotion for you. I thought, here he is on the fast track to, running the cat dealership or whatever, wherever you're at.
Dealership, And I'm pretty sure the job you even offered me was not even like a crew lead or anything. It was just come back and help me. And I don't remember all the details, but I'm pretty sure what you offered me was pretty equal to what I was getting, but I didn't have to drive the hour.
Yeah.
That was the,
Yeah.
and I knew I was going to be working with people I enjoyed and appreciated me. And the biggest thing is what still plays into me today is I'm not going to the same desk every day dealing with the same problems.
Well, I was going to
changes on a
say,
daily
in the
basis.
construction trade, what's an average remodel? 3 or 4 months or something? Or was it that
say-
long? And then you was on to another.
If you
Oh,
spent
yeah,
3 or
we were
4
never,
Yeah.
You
we
spent
did
3 or 4
smaller
months on a
jobs. than
kitchen remodel for Bernie. We were in.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
And
out of a job.
You guys are a different background scenery.
Yeah, we weren't putting 4-room additions
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
It was a lot of
Week
week and 2-week
okay,
jobs.
Yep. So yeah, you get a different scenario every
Yeah,
week.
and I cannot think of one person I worked with while I was working for Bernie that I didn't enjoy working with.
We-
We can mention. I think whenever I come back, I was pretty much teamed up with Chris Floor at the time,
Yeah,
and Chris Floor is another different individual. But me and Chris always got along great. I learned a lot from Chris. Chris looked at stuff. He attacked some stuff quite differently than some other people.
he's running a plant now.
Yeah, he's running the play now. I used to kind of keep in touch with him. I haven't for a while.
But I mean, look at kind of where these guys have,
that was one of the questions
Nick's,
I was.
Nick's running a football program. Lose a retired SEAL or soon to be Navy
Really?
SEal.
Wow.
Ross is a big deal.
Yeah. I'm just some loser in my shop and never talking to a camera. No, but that is a good point. You had. I'm trying to think. Whenever I come back, I think it was me, Ryan, or Chris, Ryan, and Dennis were the three main
Sounds about right.
guys. And I just kind of jumped between any of them, knowing doing whatever needed to be done. Ryan kind of liked to work alone. Dennis didn't quite work to my pace. And me and Chris always seemed to be pretty much jived up, and we kind of got a lot done and made a pretty good team. But as time went on, Ryan ended up moving on. Mm-hmm. Chris ended up getting another opportunity. Chris was always looking for another opportunity, and finally kind of got the opportunity he'd been waiting for. Finally presented itself. I think Dennis went on the road and started a band, didn't he?
Yeah. At which time?
So I guess my point of all this is there was several other people come and go, but I think whenever me and you conversated about me coming back, you kind of knew that I eventually wanted to be on my own.
There was, Mike, from the time you were 16, it was obvious that you were going to be.
Was it that obvious back then?
Yeah. When he'd come to work, this was the second round, but I don't know, maybe second. Pretty sure it was second round, but he'd come into work and he'd have a low boy, behind his pickup truck with a backhoe on there. This was his work vehicle.
Yeah.
I had a 91 Dakota, and he was driving this honk truck with a
Pull the trailer back on.
I'm running out for groceries with this.
Oh, I remember it that way, but he might not be wrong either. So I don't know. I think you asked me to give you 2 years, which I was perfectly fine with, and I think about 2 years.
And I mean, there was nothing. It was a handshake.
It was absolutely.
But it was the idea.
It was
the idea that let's go into this with
A plan.
With a plan.
Yeah, and I think we had enough mutual respect for each other. I understood where you were coming from as far as being able to count on me for a certain amount of time, and I think you knew me well enough to know that I was gonna probably keep my word on that. And we were talking about this earlier. I don't remember. I guess it had been about 5 or 6 years I worked for you.
Oh, it ended up being that long?
Yeah. I think it was.
No, because things kind of changed pretty quickly there, and I don't know what all. Well, Chris got an opportunity.
I got divorced, in '99.
Yeah,
And for anybody who's interested, I mean, divorce is when it needs to be. It's a wonderful thing, but it sets you back.
yeah,
And it I met a lady, and after I was divorced, who happens to be Mike's dad's first cousin.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
forgot to put that on the list of stuff.
Agnes
Kind
and
of
Gerald were, Agnes and Casper were brother and sister.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it changed, changed my life.
Yeah, I bet it does.
My home life was, I mean, it was really bad, and then it was really good, and but business, business kept going, but it was different.
Ever evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first time I worked for you was with your first business
Yeah.
partner, which was
Yeah.
the first wife. The second time I come along, I don't know if you or Kathy were even dating yet. I think you maybe started dating while I was working there.
Yeah, that summer.
But you were
would have been
you
that
were
summer.
in a different office. You were in everything had changed.
Yeah.
Everything had changed.
We went out skiing that day in your boat.
Yes, I do remember
My
that.
first date with.
That was one thing the roofing crew we always did, is Bernie would give us what roofs he wanted to get done that week, and within reason, he didn't care if we started at midnight and worked till midnight. He just wanted these roofs done this week. So we'd always look at the weather, see which day the weather was going to be the nicest. Not because we wanted to roof; that's the day we wanted to take the boat out.
Go boating, huh?
So we usually would work really hard 3-4 days, make sure we were on pace, at least get off at noon on Friday, and then Bernie and as long as we got our roofs done.
I joined you. I mean, I
Yeah,
just joined
Bernie
you that
ended up-
one time.
Yeah. Bernie ended up joining us a few times. And if we could go on the river, we'd go over to Christie and go golfing. We used to go over.
I went golfing with you guys one time.
Yeah, a few times. So, yeah, well, we really did have some awesome crews. Did you, like, in the thick of it, back in the day, whenever you had us guys working for you, did you recognize? Because, like, I've been in business, I've had some great employees over the years, but I've been in business for a long time, and I don't think I've ever had that much talent on staff.
It's weird
But you've had good crews pretty much.
It's weird how help just. I don't want to puff myself up as being good, but Dad had this expression that water seeks its own level,
Yeah?
and good help just came to me.
Yeah. You had some really good guys.
Just summer crews. I mean, your brother-in-law worked for me, and I forgot. It's like, hi, I'm Bernie. Yeah, I worked for you. That's happened. That's actually happened.
But
a
like
couple of
discussed
times.
earlier, maybe it was the structure of business and what you expected out of them is why the crew
what drew those
migrated that
guys-
way.
Yeah. So my real learning experience working for Bernie, I don't know if you even realize this. So about 2 years into it, Ryan and Chris had left. Dennis had been gone for a while. I'm trying to remember who come in. Somebody else come in kind of behind too, but I ended up being the senior guy there.
Yeah,
In some way, shape, or
sure.
form. And so right before Chris left, we remodeled an old post office into a restaurant.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good sized job.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris ran the job. I was kind of his main helper or whatever. After that job was complete, Chris was, there was some other small jobs and some time went by, but Chris had moved on. And then we got the Butler Dentistry office.
You were there for that.
And
Good.
that was the first time you kind of said, "Here's the plans, Mike."
Have fun?
That was 2008.
Was that 2008?
Yeah.
And I remember standing around that old bank, and I think it was me and Matt Parr were standing out there, and Nick Harris. Nick Harris is the other one that come in.
Oh, yeah. Well, Josh Clark
Josh Clark, yes. Josh
came
Clark.
in 2005.
Josh Clark, that's right.
So we did remember we did a McDonald's. I was kind
Yep.
of easing into some McDonald's work then.
What was the McDonald's, the Tell City lobby remodel?
That was the very first.
Was that before Butler's?
Yeah.
But you were running all the McDonald's work at that time.
Probably.
yeah, we would show up and help. And that's right. We did an addition for Dave Alvey, and that's when you hired Josh Clark.
Yes.
But I just remember that Butler's dentist office was like the first big job to where you were obviously still heavily involved, but I was the guy that was there managing the subs and
That was 2008. Boy, because, you know, the Mick Cafes came in around 2008. And you were on your own then.
well, no. So I did Butler's dentist office, and then we did the Mick Cafe at Tell City. Mm-hmm. And you were heavily involved in that one. And then, did we do Jasper Southside next?
Oh, God. Remember me going to the hospital that night? We did Jasper North and then Jasper South.
Okay, so does that, I was trying to remember, because somewhere.
I thought you were there as a subcontractor for those.
No, I was still working for you full time,
Okay.
because I ended up doing Boonville. I ran most of the Boonville one. Okay. You were kind of, not, I don't want to say stepping away, but you weren't there as much.
I was working on one of the other ones then.
And then I ended up doing the majority of the Jasper North Side one. And then you started picking up the ones over in Illinois, and that's whenever I kind of said, I'm out. And then
But you came back and helped me.
Then I come back as a subcontractor.
Yeah.
And I come back as a subcontractor.
Yeah.
And my path is kind of similar as yours. Is I was kind of trying to get that way, and I ended up landing in my first house,
Okay.
which ended up being Josh Clark's house,
Okay.
and that was kind of my platform to. And I think the conversation you and I had is hey, I'm going to build this house. I don't know what's going to happen after that. If I'm trying to keep the door open if I need a job.
Yeah.
Bernie's like, you're going to be fine. Just go.
Well, where'd Captain come in at all this mix at anywhere?
So whenever I first started running, I don't know, Bernie didn't really have this hierarchy thing of who was in charge, who wasn't. You kind of unspokenly knew, but we didn't really have titles, which I loved.
Yeah.
But one summer, and us full-time guys, which I guess would have been me and Josh at the time, Bernie would try to hire summer help guys, kind of our helper.
Yeah.
And the summer help guy
years
wasn't.
and years.
Yeah, some of the help guy wasn't like your helper, but we kind of teamed up, and
Yeah.
then we just crossed over if we
Yeah.
needed to. And it would have been my third year there. Bernie hired Cleveland
Yeah.
to be my.
So he helped Summers
Yep.
from college, and then
Got in a little bit of trouble and ended up
He-
being kind of
he-
full time for a while.
he came to me. I remember standing out there in the showroom, and he came to me, and I could really use a job. I won't be going to school the next couple of months. And,
But credit to Bernie on this, Cleveland was as green gets. Like, I'm not sure if he knew which way to swing a hammer when he got there.
I didn't think about him being kind of the caliber of the guy he is.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he's a rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cleveland was. I don't want to say he's a pleasant surprise, but you took a chance
Yes.
on him.
Yeah.
He was not your typical construction guy. Cleveland was smart, and he can pick stuff up and figure it out fast, and he's a quick learner. And he started catching on pretty quick, and he worked. He worked there off and on until I left.
Seems like a lot of summers.
Yeah.
So what's your side of the story? I've heard it
Oh boy.
with the pickup getting stolen.
Oh, Ben's pickup. Remember that?
No.
I don't know.
Maybe he didn't even know
I
about
don't know if he even knew about this. We were building your office you're at now,
Yeah.
and we were also remodeling the top of Fifth Third Bank at the same time.
Yeah,
'Cause
that weird third floor.
the weird third floor. And
There are a lot of jobs. I mean, I'm just old. And,
Yeah.
arteries are getting
Yeah.
hard. I
so
don't remember all.
my
those.
cousin Ben was working for us at the time.
Sure.
Harping out.
Yes.
And
See, I mean, just think about all these
I know.
guys.
Yeah.
And Ben had a truck given to him by his late grandfather. It was that black Chevy truck. So we sent Ben down to get something. I think Ryan was at the other job. Ryan needed something or whatever. So we sent Ben down there. Ben comes out and his truck's gone. Nowhere to be found. And he's calling us hysterical. I'm like, well, I ain't the police department. Me and Matt Parr were hanging soffit on the side of the building. I'm like, I said, call the sheriff. I call the police department. They calls the police department. He calls me, and they're down there filling out a police report and going on. And he ends up coming back up to working with us at the office. I think Matt went down and got him. And we're standing out there. We're on the side facing the, what street is that goes down? Reuben Street.
Okay.
So we're on the Reuben Street side. We have one of Bernie's big long walkboards. I remember this. It becomes important later, right? It's me, Matt, and Ben stand on this thing. And Matt's a pretty small guy. I wasn't a big guy at the time. Ben was a pretty big sized boy.
Pretty good size, yeah.
So about that time, here goes Ben's truck driving by. And those two boys jump off the dang walkboard at the same time, and I went on and launched me. I'm doing everything I can like a gymnast, trying to make sure I land back on this thing. Ben's hollering, Matt's running down the street, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on? So Ben's like, just get in the truck and follow him, get in the truck and follow him.
At this point, their cell phones exist.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the story we've talked about here tonight, there were no cell phones. But this is...
So Matt gets in his truck, Ben hops in with him, they take off. Cell phones is a point. They finally call me. He goes into the old Dobie's hardware store, which is on the back street there. It was at 11th or 10th Street or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, 11th Street.
So they call the cops, tell the cops to come down there. And I get down there, and Matt and Ben are in the neighbor's yard over there, literally hiding behind a bush, spying on this thing. Like, what are you guys doing? He's like, the cops are over there talking to him. And then, of course, the cops got this guy. Well, it's not all big misunderstanding. What's the guy that owns Honstein's? I can't think of his name.
Well, his name's Hunstein.
John. Is it John?
Yeah.
John.
So John Honstein hired a new guy. Tell him to go clean out a storage unit. He owns a bunch of storage units. He goes, yeah, I'll just take my old black Chevy out back. The keys are in it. This guy just went out and hopped in Ben's truck. He's going to clean out a storage unit. And he went to Dobie's to get a bolt cutters because he didn't have the key for it.
Oh, my.
They're supposed to be working on your job. They're out chasing the truck down through Tell City.
They jumped off the wall.
I just remember those two jumping off that. We were right in the middle. You know how big long walkboards you used to have.
I have a Marley story about a walkboard. You know Hoobie?
Oh, yeah.
Greg
Hebert, yeah.
Yep. Greg helped me on cooling towers. I took a lot of guys from Perry County out onto cooling towers. There's a James, Waniger, just probably a dozen guys over the years. Yeah, that's a lot of money that came back here. But Hoobie and I were working in a pulp mill, Oglethorpe, Georgia, and the way we put siding on these things is you'd hang the siding from the top down. They're big 4-foot tall sheets, and that cooling tower is wider at the top than at the bottom. And to get to the very end of that sheet, one guy would stand on the walkboard, and that walkboard was cantilevered out, these 2x8s.
Yeah.
And I told Hoobie, I said, your job is to stand on this end of the walkboard and not think about anything else. I'd kind of get scooched back a time or two and start talking to him and send him off, and he'd get startled. We were on one of those walkboards, and there's a great big chlorine gas release. And we were stuck on that. Everybody else just kind of dove for cover, and we were up there on the side of the building because we'd hung it down as far as our feet, and the only way to get off of there was to climb over the outside edge of the scaffold,
so
30 feet up in there. So all we could do is hunker down and breathe through our shirts. But Hoobie will remember that.
I'll have to ask about that sometime. Stuck on the side of the building somewhere. Yeah, that was there was a lot of shenanigans that went on, but the stolen truck was one. Me and Ben were actually talking about that at Christmas the other day. So
we were remodeling that the present office, and I thought we were just going to kind of refinish the floors. Mike went in there. Mike's idea of demolition isn't a pry bar; it's a track hoe. We went in there I was just going to peel up a couple layers of this flooring, but all the floor joists are bad, Bernie. We're going to. Well, it turned out for the best. We got a concrete floor in the whole place, whether I had it budgeted or not.
I remember Bernie coming up that day, and he's like, "Why is there a hole in the back?" I'm like, well, In my defense, they were all sitting on the dirt, and they were all.
It was definitely for the best.
I maybe should have called a little
Yeah.
sooner.
Important information.
Yeah.
It got done fast. That worked out well.
And the rest of the building's still standing.
Yes.
That was that the old covered wagon wheel
The
restaurant.
old wagon wheel restaurant.
Anybody else would have torn this building down. Bernie saved it. Bernie saved it for sure. So
We saved a couple of buildings in town. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, we did. I still drive by that one in Compton. We did all that work too. That's still sitting the same way. You turn up to the church, like 2 down.
Yeah.
Right next to that apartment that Andy Summers had. Remember the side of after we got the new floors in, the side of the wall fell out?
Yes. Yeah, the Historic Landmark Association.
Yeah, remember we put a
building.
new roof on that. We put all new floors into it, and it's still sitting there the same way we left it.
People are living in that house out at Bandon that we picked up and turned sideways.
That was a cool job.
Where was that at?
Right there across from Matt Parr's house. Matt Parr's mom and dad's
Oh,
house.
yeah.
We turned that house, we lifted up and we rotated 90 degrees.
90 degrees and put a foundation underneath it and set it back down.
Huh.
Dug it out with the skid steer. But,
These are just stories.
Yeah.
Well, this is my point exactly. I've as time has went on and I've done my own thing now for close to 20 years, I realize how much now that I learned back then that I didn't even know I was learning. You know what I mean? And I want to say thank you for that because you gave me a lot of opportunities. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good mentors in my life, whether they be employers or family, and being able to grab a little bit from a lot of that. I don't think I'd be as successful today as what I am if it wasn't for all those people. But my question is for you, like, what do you remember from those times? Because there was a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes I'm not sure if you were even aware of from time to time.
It was just I don't know, part of it was just a madhouse, you know. I was way too intense. Retirement, I'm working very hard. I mean, last week, the week before, I just stood there and listened to a guy talk. He must have talked for an hour. And it took everything I had in me. It took everything I had to just stand there and listen, because I did care. I mean, I care about Oscar and El Salvador, and you know, I care about all these things. But I really wanted to pick up a tool.
Yeah.
Everything just, it was so intense.
I know, how do I want to say this? Is the statute of limitations still over?
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
You remember the safety meetings we used to have? We used to have a Monday morning safety meetings.
Yeah. See, yeah.
So this is back whenever, this was NC's thing anyways, but do you remember, so Bernie used to always bring us our checks on, I think it was Wednesday, wasn't it?
Yeah, turn in time on Friday and give us to.
Yeah, and we had this, it was supposed to be really hot that day, and Bernie had this sprinkler system we put up on the scaffolding,
That
which
was a terrible idea, but it was. But my heart was in
Yeah,
the
your
right
heart
place.
was in the right place, but it did turn a roof into a slip and slide. So Bernie worked really hard on this sprinkler system, and we really enjoyed it on the roof. But if it was more than a 412, you might as well forget it. It ain't gonna happen. So we were re-roofing the house over, and it was right next to Hancock County High School.
Yep.
And it was hotter than hell.
Yep.
And we about fell
RP.
We about fell off his damn roof twice. And Bernie came over to visit for some reason. He got really mad we weren't using his sprinklers.
Because I cared.
Yeah, you guys
So-
cool down.
The next, I think it bled through a weekend because we ended up having a safety meeting about heat exhaustion the next day. And the thing was, if you started feeling clammy or dizzy or whatever, you need to go lay down in the front yard with all your clothes off.
No.
Yeah, well, it was something along those lines.
Probably. Okay.
So Louis was
geez,
standing, we were in the very back of this subdivision. Louis up on top of the house and he sees Bernie pulls in. You're driving the white Ford truck at this time. He's like, everybody to the ground. So we're out there just laying in the front yard rolling around and Bernie pulls up. And Bernie's like, he's totally confused. Do you remember this?
I remember pulling up there and the sprinklers. I think sometimes Mike's stories might have something added to them. I
I'm
don't know for sure.
I'm doing what I'm told because NC's in charge. And I just remember Nick hollering, we're feeling clammy, Bernie. I don't think we can do it.
They ain't gonna make it.
And Louis over there. I think it was Louis. He's like, should we get paid first? He's got the logical thinking going on.
Yeah.
The other one I remember is, what was that old guy's house over at Cloverport? We put all those windows and that roof on.
Wow. Yeah, Bowen. Yeah.
Me and Chris Floor were on that job, and it seemed like we were on that job forever. And one day at lunch, we were bored, so we decided we were going to play paintball. So we took masking tape and rolled it up into a ball, and we were hitting it with a broomstick. And Chris broke one of the damn windows. So we were trying to get a replacement window without him finding out.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
And the old
Sorry.
guy knew what would happen. And Chris, you know how Chris is. He's such a nervous wreck about anything.
Yes.
He's like, we're going to take care of it. Don't you worry about it.
He was a good old guy.
He was. He was a really cool. That was probably
really
one of
cool.
the coolest jobs. That roof was a real pain in the butt, but that was one of the coolest
Yeah,
jobs.
speaking of statutes, we weren't licensed. Turns out we're not licensed to work in Kentucky
Oh, wow.
at all.
Yeah.
You know, I wondered about that because one of the first jobs I ever did was putting the new facade on the front of the Hancock County Clarendon, and I got in all kinds of trouble for that, for not having Kentucky stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot to go. I mean, you got to register your business. You got to have a. A lot that goes into it. You know, just state-wise, and then every county you have to pay tax on.
Everything's
There's a lot.
a lot different. So.
I haven't worked in Kentucky for, I think it's 7 years now. Exactly 7 years.
Yeah, we never did do much work over in Kentucky. We did do a basement over there a little while back, but not a whole lot. But no, that was a really cool old place. I still think about that every time I go past.
Yeah, I remember. He's a teacher now, but one of the guys, his dad wanted to come back to work for him. Wanted him to come back to help him in his construction business, and it's like, you know, you kind of started for me here this summer. I could really use your help for this last week or two.
Yeah.
Not to go back to work for. I mean, I know he's, you know, your dad, but he's also kind of, you know, my competition. And, you know, and I started this job with you here, and he stuck it out.
No, I'll have to say, I guess it's probably about 7 years total as an employee, and then we still do work for you as a subcontractor yet today.
I look forward to you coming every
And
year.
I can honestly say I mean, you have bad days, but I do not have a bad memory. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute I spent working for you. I don't think you have any idea how much you've taught me over the years, and honestly, how much you supported me, because you've gave me work as well.
Oh, well, and I supplied you with paint for.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a whole other story. I think you've started getting some of that money back, because now I had to have them color match it, and I got it saved down there.
Okay.
So, real quick story on that. Bernie went to Owensboro one day to get paint for the new.
I decided to open a paint store, and I bought out a paint store that was going out of business.
He calls us one day and says, "Load up, boys." I think the whole crew went over and loaded up everything we had.
That's a lot of paint there.
Yeah, so Bernie's sorting all of his stuff out. I was in the middle of building this place at the time, and he's like, "You want any of this?" I'm like, "I'll take what I can." So all the paint on the walls in this thing was just a mixture of all the off-whites he had. We mixed together in a 55-gallon trash can and started spraying on the walls. So I still got some of it up there.
My great-grandpa, the barns he painted was auction paint, mixed all together and had just a little red to it. He had the oddest looking barn colors. I mean, none of them matched, but it was just paint he bought at auctions, and he always mixed together and had just a little red. I don't know what just a little red for.
When I didn't go to college. I could have gone to college. I was a straight A student. I was pretty good with books. Books came easy to me.
I was not.
But I kind of asked myself, you know, what on earth have I done with my life? And I raised my two boys, and I've got the three best stepchildren, whose dad died in an accident that we all
Remember that day very well too.
So tough, you know.
Yeah, 'cause
life's tough.
Yeah, yeah, and it's,
But business was, I was never a big deal in business. I'd had some big jobs, but they kind of tapered off here towards the end, and actually as they tapered off, life got better. But, I wonder, what
That's
actually
what-
have I accomplished in my life? And then I kind of remember, the people I've worked for and with, and
I think you've
it makes
affected a
difference.
lot more lives than what you realize.
I guess something that it tends to come up on a lot of our podcasts here is trade schools versus college. Today, do you still see you as that an opportunity as trades? I mean, is there a need for us? I mean, is college a necessity? Do you regret not going to
no.
college? Or, I mean,
No, when I came through, I remember when I first kind of got into business, guys were saying, I can take one of these fellas from the business school and make them a contractor a lot quicker than somebody coming through the trade school. Not anymore.
Okay.
I want to trade. I want to shake these kids going out and getting these.
Spending 60.
Sorry guys, but
you're
these
not-
do nothing degrees.
Yeah,
I
no,
I mean,
100%.
do nothing degrees.
College turned into a scam at some point.
Yeah.
My philosophy on this is very simple: is do what you want to do. Don't do what somebody tells you to do.
And this is a great life. I mean, as Jess is hiring guys, I'll pull them aside. I said, look at us. Said, we're standing here, loading our trucks. Said, kind of chatting, looking out here at the street, going to a different job today than yesterday, getting paid to drive to the job. We're all friends. There's a pot of coffee up there.
Yeah.
And you can, when you get done at the end of the day, you can see where you've been. Your phone's not going to ring tonight. Nobody's going to force you into overtime. Now that's speaking specifically, not broadly.
Right.
It's a pretty good life.
So, I've always kind of said that self-employment's more of a lifestyle than a job.
Yeah.
But you can also mold that lifestyle to some degree to fit your lifestyle as well. You've been at this a lot longer than I have, and you've kind of seen a business from the beginning. I don't know if heyday is the right word, through being sold and transitioned into new owners. What advice would you have for somebody that's wanting to start from the beginning today?
Stay in business. I mean, just come up with a plan, charge enough to stay in business. It's a dishonor to your customers to not charge enough. If you don't charge enough for your work to be in business in 5 years, you have done them a disservice. Because it's really tricky getting to know a contractor.
Yeah.
And to find a good contractor and then to jump into and back out of business,
and then they got to go find somebody
they got to
else.
go find somebody else.
Yeah, and
You know,
then
take care of
the
those
first thing
folks.
that new contractor wants to do is show up and tell you how everything the first guy did wrong.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We talked, but charge enough to stay in business. Just for goodness sakes, just care.
I think you kind of said the same thing I always say too, is with the home building, and maybe backing it up a little bit, is bigger is not always better. More revenue don't equal more profits.
My best years in business were here at the end, and it was just a couple of crews, and it was just doing it right.
Not doing anything glamorous or fancy or the big fancy jobs. It's just doing the basics.
Yes, and doing them really well. So I mean, if everybody just did the basics, that's not gonna. If everybody just did, bathtub to shower conversions.
you can still do the basics, but have a niche.
Yes, find your niche, and just don't try to be everything to everybody. If you want to put on additions, that's great. Just get good at additions.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to hit on, and I think it's one of your strongest things, and I think it kind of goes to what you were just saying, is just because that's how everybody else does it, don't mean that's why you got to do it.
No. No, it is not.
Because I can promise you,
Yeah.
in the 7 years I worked for Bernie, if everybody nailed a shingle left to right, our ass was doing it right to left.
Oh, we started at the top. Right?
We have roofed houses from top down, left to right,
Really?
right to left, bottom up. We have hung drywall. I'm surprised he didn't have us cut circles and nail it to the wall one time just to see if it would work. We used to always have a joke amongst our employees that just remember, guys, for every bad idea Bernie's got, we just got to wait for the good one to come along. Because he would come up with some really good ideas. His roof scaffolding was one of them. I'm trying to think of some other stuff. There was some drywall stuff. There was a lot of really good ideas Bernie had that were like, and then some of them were just simple, like the roof scaffolding. Like, why the hell we didn't think of that?
But I haven't seen anything like it
Anything
since.
else?
But wasn't it? Weren't
Oh,
those
it was
great?
genius. It was basically just a
But
2x4 pole.
Because we made it through all those roofs, and we never killed anybody.
It was.
You know
it
what
was,
I mean? I fell off a couple of times, but I mean, for as much roofing as we did,
And it was
we
so
did it
fast
safe.
and easy to set up. So fast and easy. And it saved so much of a mess, especially on tear-offs. It was just genius from start to go. But my question is roofing, for an example, just because, constantly be forward thinking about how can I do this better? How can I do it faster? How can I do it safer? How can I do it more efficient? And there's two ways to make money. One is to spend less, and the other one is to charge more, right? If you can find a happy medium between the two of them, that's going to be your maximum
Yes.
profit range.
Deliver value. Deliver value.
Oh yeah, we used to. I wish I could think of off the top of my head some of the harebrained ideas you've come up with over the years. There was some
The sprinklers is way up there.
the sprinklers. I forgot that one. There was definitely some good ones, and then there was more wins.
They weren't straight up sprinklers. They were misters.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Holiday Inn,
Yep.
Holiday
Holiday
Worlds.
Yep.
All I
outside
know
air
is they made a roof really slow.
I bet so. I bet
conditioning.
so.
I bet so.
And then you would get soaking wet, and then it'd get cool, and then you'd be froze. But and the scaffolding made those possible because the poles went up so far.
Right.
You could hang them up there. It was
Yep, I'm picturing that too.
so.
When I worked construction, I worked with 4 brothers. Each of them had a way to do the same job, but they'd get in some fights because one thought the other was better than the other, I mean, they were all right ways to do it. It's just a preference on which way you want to do it.
Mike, I just remember talk about fights. I just remember being so intense. I hope I cracked a smile at some point.
You behind the scenes, like you would be so intense and leave, but we knew. Like I don't remember there ever being any real tension because we just kind of knew that that's the way Bernie was. But behind the scenes, as soon as you left, Jim come and broke the ice pretty quick. So we were roofing a house right there across from Zerker Gillick Funeral Home one time, and we had everything packed up. We were done, and there was 2 little bitty things that went up each side. We just completely missed. It was
kind of that fake overhang sort of thing.
fake overhang. The old roof was brown, the new roof was blue, and it was just obvious. So we just missed them. We weren't paying any attention. Bernie shows up, and you were pretty hot. And Jim, and we're like, I don't remember. I think that may have been the second summer because I don't know if Nick was there. I think it was just me and Louie and somebody else. But anyways, we're like, all right, we'll fix it. So you blow out of there. About 10 minutes later, here comes Jen. I figured you'd need some ice cream after that one.
But being the owner of the company and seeing the numbers, you had a reason to be intense. I mean, you had things going through your head that had to happen to make the ends meet. I mean,
The thing about
it wasn't about the money. I was just intense.
well, the thing I do remember Bernie did pretty good is you knew when he was upset because he usually just walked away and left. He was pretty good about not sitting there and chewing your ass.
Yeah.
Like, and Bernie was one of those guys. Whenever you worked for him, you had so much respect for him, you really just didn't want to disappoint him. And if you knew if you knew you disappointed him, like you were gonna find a way to fix it. Because if Bernie didn't stick around, I remember there's one that sticks in my mind. Like it was yesterday. Is we go through St. Mark's. Right before you drop down the hill, there was an old house back here on the right. We were remodeling a bathroom. And
I think their son is a carpenter.
Okay. And I don't remember the situations. It was a real small little bathroom remodel. I think at that time, maybe it was his mom or his grandparents lived there, and we were handicapping it, ADA'ing it. Pretty small little job, like 4 sheets of drywall in this bathroom, and I was just blowing through this thing. And Bernie came up with this new. You'd used it several times. It was the first time I'd applied it, the no-coat corners.
Yeah.
And so I got drywall hung, got a coat on it, and I was like all excited. Bernie shows up, and he's like, "Why the hell's the tape on backwards?" I put all the no coat on backwards. The plastic strips were on this side. He's like, "I'm heading back to Tell City. You just take care of it." I'm like, "Shit."
I think that's twice that you were finishing and somebody said, "Here, it's your problem."
Yeah, it's your problem.
The problem was they were like 5 years apart. I didn't learn. I'm like, I knew better too. But we used to have the no coat corners. We had that roller. This is the stuff that come in a roller. You could bend,
Fold it,
fold it yourself. I put it on the wrong way. So, anyways, but well, Bernie, I appreciate you taking the time to come out. And,
It's been great.
Reminisce. So one question for you before you leave. Of all the jobs you did over the years, which one stands out to you?
For intensity, for
For all, what job are you the most proud of, and which one was the neatest job you were involved with?
I think I'm most proud of the system we came up with at the end for the bathtub to shower conversions. That we had those running smooth, kind of the systems. The summer that we put on roofs, that there was that big hailstorm, we helped a lot of people, and nobody got hurt.
What summer was that?
It was the Good Friday hailstorm.
Was that the summer I come on later?
I think so.
I
I think it was kind of like the second. There was
because we were doing like 3 riffs a week.
Yeah. So those systems.
That's also what made the McDonald's remodel so successful, is we could get in there.
I think
Because
towards the McDonald's were going pretty smooth towards the end. We started off not so good, but we came up with a system. Remember that, those flow charts?
Yep.
Are they cookie cutter plans, or are they all a little different?
They were all, yeah.
But we finally figured out, I think what was the big thing in that is after we did 1 or 2, and we figured out what we could do in a night.
Yeah.
So we knew we had a goal to shoot for as a stopping point.
Yeah.
And then there was always extra stuff you could do if you get there. But like the big thing was you tear the counter out, jackhammer the floor up. They had to have a place to sell breakfast in the morning.
And we opened every store every morning.
They've opened every store every morning. So we finally realized, let's focus on the counter and the floor. And if we get to the menu boards, that's fine. But let's not rip those out first.
And then we'd sit down, we'd have a big breakfast together.
Yeah, I just talking about Josh Clark. I get every time I go through the
I'm proud of what stands out. Remember the day we went and worked on Josh Clark's house?
Yes. Yeah. Well, you brought the whole crew out here one day and helped me work on this place.
No.
Yeah, we.
I'm proud that we were able to do that for employees now and then.
You did a lot for us for sure, and never once ever. I mean, I had a company truck the second time I always worked there, and I never went out and did hobby jobs, side jobs, and I was always working on stuff.
Yeah.
You never once ever said anything about using the truck or the tools or anything. But we were redoing, every time I go through McDonald's drive-through at Tell City, I still think about this. We were putting the second window in, and we had to move the second window where you pay at, because they just used to have one window, and it was Josh Clark's very first job. And we had done a few McDonald's jobs before this, so we kind of knew the process or whatever. So I cut the hole in the side of the building, and we had it all blocked out. And you were trying to do ceiling tile or something in that room, and Josh was going to build the frame to go in there. And you told him, he said, just go out in the parking lot and build it so we ain't on top of each other, and we'll set it in there. Josh was not a big fan of that. So he goes out in the parking lot, builds it, comes back in, clunk, don't fit. And I can see the frustration in Josh's face because he didn't get to do it the way he wanted to. Bernie pulls his tape measure out, measures the hole, measures the board. He goes, yeah. Measurements didn't change between here and the parking lot. he forgot to subtract an inch and a half for the header. But John, to this day, if I mention your name, that's what Josh Clark will say. Measurements ain't gonna change.
We said Larry Kleeman's name. I saw Larry not too long ago. I don't watch Captain Kleeman's, through and through and through.
Yeah.
I'll turn him on. But he says, Michael still thinks about you now and then. He'll get to a spot and you kind of hear him under his breath. Oh, what would Bernie do in a time like this? And Larry said, inevitably, a bigger hammer comes out.
I'm not for sure that's what Bernie would always do. You were more the finesse carpenter than the big hammer carpenter. That's for sure. But so yeah, we got off track here. But
You think?
yeah, the shower. So you got in the later after I left, you really transitioned into ADA, keeping
Yes,
people
that
in their houses.
accessibility. Yes. And just straight up tub to shower conversions, bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels.
You were just starting to dabble into that a little bit as I was
Yes.
kind of getting out the door.
Yeah, I wish I could say that there was a project, but it's cool to go down Main Street, go in, get my teeth cleaned, and we built this. We put the addition on, and then we remodeled it. We put an addition on for the bank, and then we remodeled it.
Remodeled
I
again.
don't know why this sticks out as one of the coolest things I did while I was working for Bernie, but it was rappelling off City Hall.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I do remember doing
we
that.
repelled out of several church steeples.
Yeah, City Hall is the only one I ever went on with you when we rappelled down. But
Lucky we didn't break every one of those.
yeah, that
Slate
one sticks
tile,
out. That one sticks out to me, and running all over a UCC church like a monkey there was always shingles blowing off that. It seemed like every time we had a windstorm, we were up there patching shingles. I was lucky I didn't probably fall off there, to be honest with you. So, all right, Bernie, the weather's not the greatest. I truly appreciate you coming out. Enjoyed just catching up with you.
Thank you. Chris?
For sure.
Yep, nice meeting you too, Bernie. Yep.
Man.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed. A lot of inside stories here they may or may not
Yeah,
get, but
yeah.
it's Bernie's a big part of how I got to where I'm at today. And thankful for that. And it's just a good excuse to catch up. So thanks for coming out,
Thanks,
Bernie. I
Mike.
appreciate it. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.